All right, getting into the second lesson of the Unit 2 credit recovery, and we're going to be talking about how ancient Greece is going to finally go to war with other people and sadly within themselves. So, we're going to be talking about culture, and we're going to talk about their customs and their practices and how they impact other societies. And you're going to notice that today is going to be kind of in the middle of the two, or excuse me, of the three Greek lessons. So I'll kind of explain more as we go. But again, their culture is going to be in check. And like I said, their ways of government are going to be in check that we established last lesson. So, going into this, it's always important to grasp the causes and effects of everything I talk about. So, especially the effects and how they become later causes, if you will. So, this in particular, I want you to pay attention about other societies' culture. What did we get from the Greeks? Would be a big way of saying it. So, you saw this chart before. You saw how the oligarchy of Sparta and the direct democracy of Athens, they are complete opposites. People have a say in what's all going on. People are basically told what to do. And you're going to see this type of custom or this type of thinking is going to really unfold today and in terms of war. So, where we last left off, the first war I kind of briefly mentioned, the Trojan War. This one's kind of interesting. So, this one is known for the Trojan horse and why this one city state of Troy is going to come down. And it's all fine, well, and good, but we don't really have any proof that it even happened. The only reason we do know is because this guy, Homer's story of the Iliad, survived. Now, it doesn't mean that it actually happened. Okay, I could make up a lie right now, and 3,000 years from now, it could be seen as true, but we don't know because everything was basically destroyed. But again, it's worth noting just because it is Greece, it is a war, so we'll talk about it. But where we start caring about is when the city starts coming around. And we're going to talk about two in particular. We're going to talk about Sparta, which is right here, and we're also going to talk about Athens right here. So notice the location and how easy accessible one is to the other, and that's going to build a rivalry. And again, if you look at what their government was, democracy for Athens, oligarchy for Sparta, there's already one difference. But you're also going to notice that the differences are going to get ramped up here in a little bit. But again, they did talk to each other. They did communicate with one another. They did trade with one another. So that's kind of a big deal. But again, each city state basically developed what was important to them. So, what was important to Athens is their culture, their arts, their education, their learning, and just how they operated. Sparta is going to basically put a lot of emphasis in their military. Okay, if you've ever seen the movie 300, you're told at a young age you're going to join the army, you're going to train for the army, and you got to basically make it from there on out. And if you get to the retirement age, you're an important person in their society because you have wisdom. And chances are you're going to call the shots in their government. But to give you an idea, so Sparta, they had this saying in their military: come back with your shield or on it. Now, if that isn't badass, I don't know what is. But why it's important to us is that that's a complete opposite of Athens. Yes, they do have Athens, the military training in Athens. That is a big deal there as well. But they want a well rounded person, not just somebody that's going to be driven. Now, what you know about ancient Greek culture, the gods and the goddesses, if you will, that's all from Athens. So it kind of goes into why do we know so much? Athens took the time to record their history and develop things that are left behind. Sparta didn't really leave a whole lot of great things behind, I guess, for us to be amazed at, like their art and stuff. So that's kind of why when you look at ancient Greek culture, it's mostly Athens and what they left behind. So, true or false? Athenian and Spartan cultures were very similar. All right, so the second war that's worth noting is the Persian Wars, and this is where the Greeks are going to have to become unified. So the Athens and Spartans are going to have to somehow come together, put their differences aside for the greater good. And you're going to notice that it's going to lead into another well-known social thing, a marathon. But here is what we need to know. So this purple stuff up here, this is Persia. They were a huge empire during the time. We didn't talk about them just because there's not really a need to, because they didn't really do a whole lot. They just acquired a lot of land. But they wanted to expand to Greece. So they are actually going to attack one area in particular of Greece, and that's what's going to spark this thing called the Battle of Marathon, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And it's actually called Ionia. I just can't find it on the map unless I'm not seeing it. No. But what's going to happen is that when the Persians go to attack, one dude in particular, his name is Philippides, is going to run all the way to Athens, which is 26.2 miles, and he's going to warn the Athenians, hey, the Persians are coming. Now, what's going to happen is that that's going to give enough time for the Athenians now to like mobilize, if you will. But the story goes as this: as soon as he delivered the message, apparently he died. He collapsed over and he died. So, just goes to tell you, running for fun will kill you. So, anyways, the Greeks were heavily, heavily outnumbered, but they were able to win. So that's a big deal. People know the Battle of Thermopylae because of this movie 300, which is when the Spartans and 300 of them basically held off the Persians while the Athenians were able to get their everything mobilized. So that's kind of another thing to kind of in there. But Spartans lost, and basically Sparta is going to be salty for this for a while, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. Oh, yep. Here's some artwork that shows basically what was left behind or the stories that were left behind. So, what were the effects? Because of the Persian War and basically Athens emerging as the big dog, I guess you would say, of city states, you're going to notice that Athenian culture is going to thrive. So, we're going to talk about somebody in the next lesson called Socrates. He was able to exist and basically do his thing because of the Persian War victory. Basically, also the education that we are going to talk about is going to be a reason why. So, all of next lesson only happens because of the victory of the Persian War. So the victory of the Persian War allowed what? So the last such war that we're going to talk about is the Peloponnesian War. So remember when Sparta was salty, basically, of what happened in the Persian War? Yeah, they're going to get their revenge. So there's going to be a city-state called Peloponnesus, where these two, the Athenians and the Spartans, are going to clash. And you're going to notice that Sparta is going to win. Now, why did they start it? We don't really know. Yes, I said they were salty, but again, any one of these would lead to saltiness. So technically, I'm not wrong. But Sparta is eventually going to outlast Athens because they're just basically drained. They're bankrupt. They don't have any resource to throw at them anymore. People are just going to not really know why they're fighting at some point, and they're just going to run, like I said, run out of resources. But why this is all such a ginormous deal is because this is recorded by one of the OG historians, and his name is Thucydides. And he is somebody that if you become a history major, you will hear about him. But this is where you're going to notice that all those philosophers that I just talked about, especially Socrates, the OG, he is going to start losing faith in the culture that Athens established, especially in the democracy. So that faith is going to start questioning, and questioning is his bag. Philosophy. So the loss in the Peloponnesian War kickstart his thinking, which in turn has a domino effect, which in turn is going to be a reason why the Greek culture is going to be kind of known and more developed than any other time or any other civilization during the time. So the loss of the Persian War did what in Athens?